welcome to Across the Gun Counter. I'm your host, Joe Riva, joined by my co-host, Tyler Weaver.
What's up, guys?
Alrighty. And today we're here to talk about, our topic today is going to be checklist for buying a gun. When you go into a store or a show, maybe that's even part of the topic. What's on your list for buying a gun?
Yeah, or you just happen to stumble across somebody that's selling something. What do you look for?
Yeah, what are you looking at? But before we dive into today's topic, hey Tyler, what have you been working on in the shop lately? What's been a fun project for you, or a difficult project, I should say?
I'll go with the difficult project.
Okay.
And since you're a Finnish guy
Ooh.
with two N's,
Uh-huh.
I just finished a Finnish Sako.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, exactly. I just finished a Finnish Sako. Finished applying the finish on the Finnish Sako.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, if you guys want, you can go check it out on Facebook and Instagram at Precision Rifle Works LLC. Just posted a bunch of pictures of it. The thing came out beautiful. These freaking guns, man, they have like some sort of epoxy type finish. It is just a nightmare to get off. I mean, best bet's honestly just taking a razor blade and scraping it all off. And unfortunately, with a lot of the older guns, they get scratches and dings from being in the wood and then it starts chipping off. So this one wasn't in bad shape. It came in just to get the stock refinished, and it was honestly a really good candidate for it. There wasn't any major cuts to the grain where I couldn't pull it out. So overall, it just came out really nice. You're gonna like that one.
Was that the one you posted with the outside? I believe it was.
Yes.
Yes.
It's got
Okay.
like
Ooh, yeah. That
a
was
yellowy, like maple looking stock.
That's a really nice finish. No, I'm really not trying to do the pun intended, despite my love of Finnish firearms, and all things Finnish. For those who don't know,
and that is a
Finnish
hand rubbed
reenact-
oil finish. So that's not like a. You'll see a lot of these. I don't want to say high end retailers, but like a lot of these manufacturers do a spray on finish. So you get a nice thick gloss. It looks good, but it is kind of a cop out, kind of.
So nothing
And
beats a hand
this
rub
is just
finish.
nothing beats a hand job, man.
oh,
So yes, that is literally going over it by hand with oil many, many times and smoothing it out.
well, your hand jobs look very nice. Let's put it that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, speaking of hand jobs, what have you had come into the shop?
Oh man, hand jobs. Oh man. So what some cool firearms that we've had come in lately, I should say, is we've had a couple new firearms come in lately. New to me, I should say. One that I we had one of those staccato P's come in, the staccato
I'm actually
P
not
2011s.
familiar with those. What are they like?
So that's like a double stack 1911. So here's the funny thing about that firearm was I've heard all about that firearm the past few weeks because a lot of people I've been reading online have been having issues with that Springfield Prodigy.
Okay.
And everyone's saying the fix is get staccato mags. So every time I've had someone come in the shop and has been asking about the Prodigy and the issues, I say, oh, well, the fix I've heard is get the staccato mags. But I've never handled the staccato. Well, lo and behold, what do we have walk in the door one day? Actually, funny enough, a friend of mine was actually the one who brought it in. And in walks a staccato. He had one of those, got to play around with it. That's actually a really nice looking pistol. It's just like I'm not normally as big of a fan as 1911s as some people are. And the double stack is not normally something I really like with 1911. Just keep 1911 traditional and M45.
And plus, they tend to get a little bulky.
Yeah, but and this one was nice and comfortable. I thought that was pretty cool. It's definitely worth checking out. We actually have it on the shop's website. You can see a couple pictures of it. But the other one that came in that we didn't buy that I thought was a little bit cooler to me at least was the Kunin in 357.
Okay.
So that was just the 1911 and 357 Magnum. That's just something you don't see every day.
Not at all.
How often do you see a semi-automatic in a revolver cartridge like that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just cool. This thing was friggin' bulky. I mean, it's a big gun.
Yeah, but again, you got to have that weight behind it to help absorb some of that recoil.
Exactly.
Or else the gun's basically gonna beat itself to shit.
Yeah, it really will. And by the way, as we're talking here, I really did pull those pictures up. Really, guys, go look at that rifle. That finish rifle that came out, the stock finish really came out well.
I appreciate that, man.
So, I mean, and hey, that kind of leads into the topic of what we got going on today, which is, a checklist for buying a gun. What are the things that you look for when purchasing a gun? And is it circumstantial? Is it you happen
Hmm.
across something? Is it at a show? Is it at a shop? What what's your criteria for buying a gun? What do you look at?
So, for me, say I am in the market for something, I have a pretty good idea of what that gun's capable of, what need it fills for me. So, if I do happen to like seek something out, after that, it's okay. Is it used or new?
Hmm.
If it's used, I'm checking for flaws. I'm checking for damage. So, typically, if it's a rifle, I'm looking at areas people don't typically look at. A lot of people will grab a gun, they'll look at the left side, flip it over, look at the right side, look down the sights. Okay, tell me how many times you've seen that.
Yeah.
You know, um, typically I'll pull the bolt out. I check the bolt face first. I'll look at the muzzle, make sure it's crowned nicely. It's not dinged up. If it's got a recoil pad, is that all smashed in? Is it torn apart? If it's got a butt plate on it, especially like some of the older guns, they get chipped out from dropping them or just setting them down on the floor, too rough, uh, things of that nature. Uh, Normal wear and tear damage, I'm not too concerned with, but you can definitely tell when a gun's been neglected. Um, some other things, if you have, or if the shop will let you, if it's a handgun, pop the grips off. That'll tell you a lot about how that gun was
Oh yeah.
maintained. Mm-hmm. If it was a carry gun and it's packed full of lint, because, I mean, you have to admit, when you get a used gun in the shop, do you guys do a full strip down and clean it?
So you're gonna laugh. Actually, we're one of the few shops that actually does.
Really?
Yeah. I when next time you come in the store, remind me and I'll show you all our guns.
I will.
We
I'll quiz you. I'll be like, hey, pop those grips off.
no, the one guy in the shop actually he loves cleaning, and that's one thing that we try and do and that's something we'll actually get into with this is one thing I look for is the condition of the gun and is the firearm clean or not, because whether the firearm is
Hmm.
clean or not can definitely make or break a sale for me,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's why we clean everything is because if a firearm is cleaner and it looks nicer, it's easier to sell and you can get more money for it. It's simple
Yeah.
as that. If you have a gun that is dirty and it doesn't look, it's a little slow on the slide or something like that, and realistically
Hmm.
all it needs is a little bit of CLP or hell, Croil's a wonderful thing. If it just has a little bit of that, it might be running fine. So why not just
Yep.
take as a shop, I think that's a responsible thing more shops should be doing is cleaning firearms.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially like guns that don't move. If they've had a gun
Hmm.
on the rack for a while, pull it down, dust it off.
Yeah,
Give it a fresh
absolutely.
coat of oil, make it glisten.
Exactly. It's not especially when now I'm gonna be going a little off topic here, but
Hmm.
for shops, I mean, hey, if you guys ever have downtime, just clean guns. It's really doesn't take a lot of time, and it
Yeah,
gets you more knowledge behind the firearm. I've learned
absolutely.
I've learned so much, and I can tell you the staff at the store has definitely learned so much too, just about breaking down different firearms and just from cleaning. And some guys look at it as like a chore, some guys find it therapeutic. I'm a little bit in the
Yeah.
middle.
Okay.
um,
So here's a good one to support that.
uh-huh.
Um, Recently, I had Bass Pro Shop send me a few rifles to cast the chambers on.
Okay.
Just
Oh, I
so
remember that. Yeah, you were showing me
Yep.
those.
So they can sell them, so they're confident with what caliber they are. One of them was a Swiss K31.
7.5 Swiss, wasn't it?
I don't know. I never shot it. Anyway, I know enough about these rifles from a one of my buddies out at gunsmith school that typically under the butt plate, if you undo the screws, there'll be a
Troop
tag
tags.
with the person. Yep, troop tags who has issued that rifle. So in casting that chamber, obviously I have to clean the chamber and everything. So I give the rifle a once over. That way, when it goes back to them, it looks better than they sent it to me. And as just a little, you know, a little token of gratitude for them doing the work, I'm like, hey, I pulled the butt plate off. I took a picture of the troop tag so you guys can say, hey, as an additional feature, this is who owned this rifle. You know, it still has a troop tag under it, but it's been reinstalled. So here's a picture of it. That
That's
way,
so cool.
the store does not have to remove that. It's still right where it should be, but they have all the information they need. So pulling a gun apart, you don't know what you're gonna find.
That's very true. And when it comes to surplus stuff, it's funny because you mentioned Finnish at the beginning. For those who don't know, I love Finnish guns, Finnish Mosins in particular. I love the World War II Finnish history and all that, to the point where I actually do reenacting on the side a little bit of it. But the Finnish Mosins are the same way. You can find like the troop tags, sometimes they'll have the hang tags, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, there's just so much into collecting those that it just adds that extra level of something to look for when purchasing one. And I think that's when it comes to buying a gun if you were to have a buying a gun checklist, you can't have a one size fits all checklist.
No, absolutely not.
I think the first thing you really have to look at is, are you buying a new firearm or buying a used firearm? Because if you're buying a new firearm, I think there's a lot less you have to look for. Well,
that Smith & Wesson I bought.
That's true, but I'm saying across the board. I would say in general, I think there's
general,
there's gonna be less you're gonna be looking for on a new firearm, because you're gonna think, in theory, that if they're putting it on the shelf, that from the manufacturer everything is all right. Like, I did see a rifle recently that the grip we actually have to send back to the manufacturer because it wasn't on right. I'm like, hey, that's not on right, and I tried tightening it, and no, the receiver was actually stripped where the pistol grip was supposed to go on the AR.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That type of stuff should be covered under warranty.
Oh yeah,
especially
absolutely.
if it didn't even leave your shop yet.
Exactly. Like, I caught it before it even hit the floor. So.
Yep. So again, another reason to check stuff up, check out for flaws and damage before you buy something, because hey, it might be an opportunity for that shop to return that firearm and get a replacement for you.
Yeah, before it even hits, before you even buy it.
Yep. So second on my list, I would say, is, has the firearm been modified?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, a lot of stuff internally you will not know until you actually shoot the gun or disassemble it. So some stuff you can't tell, at the store. They're not going to let you take everything apart, but little things to look for on the outside of the gun. Mausers are notorious for this. The front ring of, large ring, small ring, Mauser, whatever, the front ring where the scope mount goes, some of them were drilled into the locking lug, which you might get away with it, but if there is going to be a flaw in that rifle, that's where it's going to be. One of your locking lugs that's taking all that pressure has a hole drilled in it now.
Yeah, so, that's not good.
Exactly. Granted, you might have an old timer that shot that gun for many years like that and says it's fine, and it very well may be, but are you really willing to risk it?
Yeah, I know for a fact when it comes to buying military surplus stuff, my checklist is a lot longer and a lot larger than it would be for buying something new, like buying a new AR-15 or buying a new, I don't know, like a new bolt gun. To be honest, I really don't buy a whole lot of new firearms outside of handguns. I think, honestly, when it comes to buying new firearms, it's more handguns. I mean, most recently, I think I got the newest long gun I got was the Zastava, the M70, which that thing is, honestly, if you're going to buy an AK, that's the AK to buy. But new firearms, I don't really look at rifles as much. I look more for used rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just comes down to what I like to collect, which is the military surplus, which there's a lot to look
that's
for.
One of the main firearms that people were modifying,
Absolutely.
They would get them for cheap and modify the hell out of them. And some of them were great. I actually, right next to me, hold on a sec. I have a Remington, 1903. What do we got here? It's in the 4 million digit serial number. So,
okay.
Very well sporterized, I would say. It's in a Fagen stock. Yeah, so they were known for making sporterized stocks. The barrel is original, but the gunsmith that modified it tapered the original barrel into a sporter contour and actually cut about 6 ports on either side of it. Really nicely done for recoil.
Interesting.
and then counterboard it, so there's no rifling running where that integral brake is. And again, this one was modified, but it was done really nicely. Bolts jeweled up and everything.
See,
But-
and now when it comes to buying a rifle, I know a lot of people who collect military surplus, like myself. Once in a, every now and then, they'll look for some guns that are sported or bubbled, but
Lightly sported.
exactly, and that's what I'm saying is, yeah, that's what I was gonna get at was lightly sported that you can do like a simple restore, like duffel cuts, things like that, or stuff that's just missing the front sight, or stuff that's missing, small pieces here and there. That's fine if you can get them for a reasonable price. Go for it. But you also have to remember what you're getting, how much the cost is going to be. If you're trying to flip it for resale, you're not going to get the money.
Yeah, that's almost never a good idea.
There's a lot of these. I see them all the time at shows where guys are selling project guns and guys are like, oh, I can buy it and flip it. I can buy it and flip it. And every time I've looked at a gun that like is a project gun, it's never been, can I buy this and flip it? It's always been, how much will it cost for me to buy it and get it to this condition, not buy it and flip it. And if you think of it with that mentality of buy it and flip it, I think you need to be looking at another market.
Yeah, absolutely. And just availability of parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like some rifles, the way they were sporterized was just cutting the stock down. Okay, but now you got to find a replacement stock. How easy is that to come by? Barrel bands too, because typically they're long gone.
Look at the MOS 36. Look at how hard it is to find the barrels for those. I got very lucky with that, with the barrel we got, that I had that we swapped out.
I'm still surprised somebody tried to sporterize one of those. But
well,
hey,
that was a market conversion. I believe it was the company was Santa Fe Arms, something of that nature.
Okay.
They got a bunch of them. They cut down the barrels. And at first, that's what I was like, oh, maybe I could do a MOS 36, like the CR39 clone. But I'm like, I'd rather have the original troop, the actual infantry style. So that was cool to get the barrel and everything.
Mm-hmm. But again, you had a working firearm to build off of.
Exactly. It wasn't just a receiver or anything like that.
Yep. So that brings me to my next point is, does the gun even work? So a lot of small town gun shops, they'll sell guns as is, and they'll have that written on the tag, like, hey, this is an old gun, it came in as is. And some of those places will not let you dry fire, especially like older shotguns, double barrels, stuff like that, where the firing pins usually pretty brittle. You really don't want to be dry firing those guns much. And there's been times where, yes, I've bought in a couple guns, mostly shotguns, and taken them home, do the snap caps, you hear the click, okay, great, go to take them out, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Firing pin broke off just a little shy of where it won't set off a primer.
Oh yeah, it's we have a couple shops around us that have that where they say don't dry fire shotguns for that reason.
Let's be honest, shotguns and rimfires, you really shouldn't dry fire.
Yeah, I think the more modern pump action shotguns, you're a little bit more
yeah,
safer
more
on.
modern stuff you can,
but
especially
I still,
if it's like a double barrel.
But the old stuff, don't
like
be
that.
doing that. It's you really shouldn't be. Get some snap
And
caps.
one thing to keep in mind, it's just the quality of steels that they had to work with, and heat treating. Back in the day, heat treating was literally looking at it and seeing what color it was.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool when you were showing me the whole process to heat treat, and we were like, this is actually how they did it, was literally by color.
Yeah, you can tell how hot, roughly how hot steel is by the color it turns. So in a lot of the old heat treating processes, it was looking at the gun parts and seeing what color they were before they quenched it. So if it's a sunny day, it might look different. If it's cloudy day and the lights are on in the shop, it might look different.
That's why. So, what was the saying? You said, "Do it outside."
It depends what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. For like finishing gun stocks, yes, absolutely. Go outside, let the light hit everything and show you every damn scratch in it. But if you're heat treating, probably do it inside, a little bit darker.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
So yeah, does the gun even work? And again, that's mostly just for the used market. Most brand new firearms should work right out of the box.
Again,
depending on the manufacturer.
Yeah.
But point number 4 is, what purpose does it serve you? Because let's be honest, when guys have a little bit of money to burn and they're in a gun shop, we have a tendency to buy buy guns we don't necessarily need.
That we want. Yeah.
Yeah, you ever fall into that trap?
Yeah, I say this all the time at work is the real gun the real gun control is buying one when you really want to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of true.
Yeah. So for me, when I'm at a gun shop or at a gun show, especially, and you happen to stumble across something that really catches your eye, it's like, okay, well, what purpose does that fill for me? When am I gonna take it out? Kind of like with women and clothes, you know. Okay, I want this dress. Where am I gonna wear it? You know, I know that's a big deal for my wife. So when you're buying a firearm, what's the purpose? And if it's literally just to keep it as a safe queen, like, hey, investment piece, you know, something a lot of people don't really think about when it comes to guns is that typically they appreciate in value. So if it
Especially
is
the
just
older
going to
stuff.
sit around, yeah, exactly. You know, and if that's the reason you come up with, like, hey, you know, sure, I'll buy it just to hang on to it. Um, a lot of people think about guns as, you know, a tool. You got to go out and shoot them, but they're much more than that. And essentially, we are the curators of these guns for our lifetime. They're going to outlive us almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
So we're literally just taking care of them. So something to think about. So I have, what purpose does it fill? There's many options for that.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's something too is, what purpose does it fill? And I know as weird as this sounds, can you afford it?
that's actually next on my list.
Yeah.
Can you afford it? Because let's be honest, if you talk yourself into a gun and you take it home and the lights turn off, guess what? That brand new gun's gonna look a lot worse with no
Exactly.
lights.
So you have to keep in mind is it necessarily worth it to go and look for a gun at that time? Because if you can't afford it, don't tease yourself. It's not worth it. It's shoot what
Yeah,
you have. Go buy some ammo instead and go to the range and enjoy what you got.
yeah,
Because
absolutely. And plus, look at a price point. You know, you could buy the brand new HK handgun, and that's all you could afford, or you could get a Glock, get a few mags, you know, and like with the same amount of money, how much extra are you getting?
exactly. With what you can afford too is I don't know how many times I've seen guys buy something then turn around and sell it a few days later because they're like, oh well,
Really?
that was yeah a lot. That happened during the pandemic a lot.
Oh,
Um,
with the pandemic, I'm kind of not surprised.
well, because yeah, and that's a whole nother economic thing we can get into about people being handed money and they had more than they knew what they were doing with, and that's what happened, dude. More
Yeah.
people bought guns and they were like, oh, I'm buying this, 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 and this, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, I can't even afford this. What are
And
you doing?
because going back to their purpose, hey, I have money, I can afford it, and the purpose, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic. You just never know what's going to happen.
And that was the thing
Okay.
too. Well, that was the thing too. People were overpaying for everything, and at that
Yeah.
point was, and I said this to you, I said this to a couple other people was, be patient with buying your parts for ARs and parts like that is because it's not worth it to pay top dollar because a lot of sites were letting you back order parts. Just be
Mm-hmm.
patient because if you be patient, you'll get it at a reasonable rate. You
Yeah,
know
absolutely. I mean, there's been a ton of times where I'm looking for certain parts or even certain guns, and it's like, it's just not the right time, you
exactly.
know? And I know, okay, these manufacturers make them by the, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not, you know, some gun companies are up into millions. It's like, you'll find one. Trust me, you will find one.
Oh yeah,
You might have to pay a little more for it, but when the time is right, you will be able to find one.
exactly. And I mean, hey, look at case in point, like we were talking about in our previous episode with the SKS, with my SKS. I was
Hmm.
patient and I got it for what I wanted in the price range I wanted. I didn't overpay. Guys, we're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back.
All right, guys, and we're back. So, the pandemic brings us to another good point with gun buying. Will the gun appreciate?
Yeah.
So, let's be honest, Joey. A lot of people that bought firearms during the pandemic, they're going to have to wait a long time before that gun
Oh
ever
yeah.
appreciates to what they paid for it.
Well, the majority of people who bought firearms in that period, they depreciated in value because they bought AR-15s or they bought certain
Home
shotguns,
defense shotguns.
home
Yep.
defense shotguns that they had to have at that point, so they overpaid for a brand name shotgun by $200. Don't say you didn't because I saw you do it. Um, it's plain and simple. And now then all those people now all of a sudden are coming in and I need $1,500. Here's the thing: $1,500 is like the magic number for AR home builds. It's I don't know what it is. People come to the shop. How much do you want for this AR-15 that you built at home? I want 1,500.
Yeah.
Why do you want?
It's custom.
Yeah, it's custom. Well, I did this. Well, first off, people keep in mind you customized it for you. Secondly, just because you overpaid for it doesn't mean I'm gonna overpay for it because you paid $1,500 for all these parts when. Guess what? That Bushmaster and that Arrow, or I'm not trying to knock either of those companies, but you overpaid. You paid twice what they were worth during the pandemic. It's not my problem, and I'm not trying to
not
sound...
just that, but their rifle doesn't come with a guarantee. The manufacturer's rifle, that's all the manufacturer's part. That's guaranteed. That has a warranty.
Exactly. That means something, and that's something you try. Well, I actually had one guy who the one time had the nerve to actually say to him, he's like, "Oh, well, if there's any issues, you can have him call me," and I go. No,
that's not going to happen.
It doesn't work like that, buddy. Like, I understand, like, and I'm happy you back your build like that, but that's not reputable, and I can't retell that to.
Yeah, I can't take that to the bank.
Exactly. So things to keep in mind is just because you might have want something for X amount doesn't mean it's worth that at this time currently. The other big one was recently the high powers are the big thing on the scene now.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
What, 2 different companies came out with new versions of the high power.
You could argue 3 because you have Springfield, who was the first one who kind of introduced theirs, which if I recall correctly is actually just the tooling off of the old Turkish ones that were coming out. But the Springfield one was actually kind of nice. I handled it. I really enjoyed it. The finish on it was really cool. Then there was the Gearsons, which we just got those in the other week too. Those were actually I prefer the Springfield. These weren't bad. The competition model was actually pretty cool, but honestly, you know me, I like the classic. So for that, I would probably go with the Springfield one. And now FN is bringing it back too with their new modern style, which that one, as much as I know I just said I like the classic and I prefer the classic, their new modern styling of the high power is pretty slick looking. I actually like the FDE look a lot.
Yeah, I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, I haven't seen one in person yet. I'd like to soon. The rep told me, oh yeah, they'll be out soon, and yeah, when we get them, that'll be nice. And until then, who knows? Until then, they just, I don't believe they exist.
But, I mean, that goes back to, okay, if you had an original high power, did that appreciate over time compared to the new ones now, especially when the hype is now out there for high powers?
Absolutely.
I mean, look at, what was it, the Colt Python after The Walking Dead came out.
Oh, those skyrocketed.
How much did those prices freaking skyrocket?
Oh, I had a guy offer me $2,000 at the range for my Diamondback the one time.
Really?
Yeah, and the guy was trying to buy it off me. I was like, no. I'm sorry. He's like, oh, we can. I was like, no, sorry, no.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you buy good quality guns that already have a big following, the Colt Snake guns.
Those are always going
really,
up in value.
Really anything original Colt.
The old
has
Colt,
some sort of,
because the new Colt is a whole nother story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, they're owned by CZ now.
Yeah, they're owned by CZ now. Which in better
original
hands.
Colt.
But,
stuff like that. These guns appreciate in value, and granted, yes, you have to account for inflation, stuff like that. You see these old catalog guns where people were buying, M1 Garands for what, $100 or something like that.
$180, and then like 1917s for like $70, and you see Enfields for like $30, and
yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, but yeah, what was a tank of gas back then?
Exactly.
So it's like you kind of have to figure that out, but in general, most firearms will appreciate given the right amount of time.
Yeah, especially military surplus in the original condition. The second you modify any military surplus any which way, shape, or form, you lose almost half the value. Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. Some people, oh well, this was the only thing. Yeah, that's the only thing, and I'd rather have it a non-matching rifle than have it be a modified rifle.
Yeah, but I gotta call you out on this though.
Hmm.
I'm still a big fan of well done sporterized
Oh
rifles.
no,
So
I'm not
yeah,
saying that. I'm saying the just the value of the initial rifle from like a resale
yes,
standpoint. You have no value from because you don't have the original
yeah.
military configuration.
Like I had that one that Swiss Mauser that came in. The guy wanted it drilled and tapped initially for a scope, and I said I'm sorry, I won't do it. I won't take a perfectly fine. Everything was correct on this rifle. I'm not going to be the one to drill and tap it.
I'm
I'm
happy
sorry,
he
that's
saw a
not me.
reason.
But then he said about these other like non-invasive mounts. They go
Yeah, the
where
no
the
drill
rear
tap.
sight is. Yup. So it's like, look, that I'd be fine with. Still gonna have to bend a bolt handle. Let me see if I can find new old stock bolt handles, because there's really not collectors for new old stock parts. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. They're valuable to people like me. Great. I have
yeah,
a
absolutely.
brand new bolt. It should headspace pretty well, which it actually headspace great. So it's like, okay, I'll bend this bolt handle. The original matching one is going to stay how it is.
Well, I really like how you did that one, and that was cool too because you did the whole write up on it too, where you were like,
Mm-hmm.
look, this is something of this was a rifle that was never modified. I can't modify this now. If it had been something that had been modified, that's a little bit different.
Oh yeah,
But
and as a gunsmith, I'm always looking for those. Like I'm
mhm,
looking for jankety Bubba hack jobs that aren't too bad. It's like, look, that gun's got good bones. It can be worked with.
mhm. Well, you recently
Or
bought that one Mauser for your wife.
yes, the 270.
Hmm.
Yep, and that's the thing. I was looking for just a regular Mauser receiver to build something off of, because again, you're not sporterizing an old, military configuration one. It's just the receiver at that point. But I
Yeah,
found one that was like probably like an early sporterized, like commercially sporterized Mauser.
it was an inner arms, wasn't it?
Um, no, I don't think this was an inner arms.
Hmm.
It might have been, but it was definitely built on a Czech Mauser.
Okay.
So, but everything was basically wiped off of it. So I had to actually go by the markings underneath. So again, if you're at a retail gun shop looking at the outside of the rifle, you can't really see what it is. So I know a lot of shops aren't going to let you really start tearing into them to see what it is, but um, things to keep in mind.
Yeah, is look at the modifications, how the modifications were done, because just because
Mm-hmm.
someone added a scope to something, and I'm not necessarily talking about a military surplus. I'm talking, it could be a hunting rifle or a thing of that nature.
Oh yeah,
Is
absolutely.
how was the scope installed? Was the rifle drilled and tapped properly? Was it
Mm-hmm.
barely hanging on? Was it welded? Was it because I've seen a lot of people where they've brought stuff in and they've said, "Hey, this firearm was, I got a scope on it," and it's like, okay, first off, that scope is a $60 Walmart scope.
Yeah.
Secondly, the scope is hanging on by electrical tape and zip ties. What do you,
Or Joey,
like,
remember when we went down to that one auction? The guy said when rifles come in with scopes, they'll typically auction off the rifle and the scope separately because they bring more value.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too is when you're talking about your gun checklist of where you're buying it at too is if you're buying at an auction versus a gun show,
Mm-hmm.
or you might have different things to look for. Case in point, look at Nick. Look at our one buddy. He was looking for a couple of things and he bought a rifle in one lot. And then the parts to fix it, which were all matching parts, were actually in another auction lot.
Yeah.
So, but if he didn't pay X amount for those parts in that other lot, he would never have the matching set for that
Mm-hmm.
rifle.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so he knew what he had to pay. It wasn't really a negotiable thing for him, and he really couldn't call the auction house and be like, "Hey, can you pull that separate auction just for me?" No, it
Yeah.
doesn't work like
Nope. He had to
that.
try to win it.
Exactly, and he did.
Yep.
Props to him.
So before we get wrapping up, Joey, I really got to ask though, like
Yeah.
from your point of view across the gun counter,
Hmm.
what do you prefer people do? For checking out a firearm. They come into your shop. Hey, let me see that one over there. Like
Well,
what would you like to see?
first off, the thing I would like them to do is make sure they actually have a genuine interest in the firearm. it's one thing to have a genuine interest in the firearm. It's another thing just to be like, hey, I'm kind of curious about it. And I just want to play with it for a second. So I actually want
Plus,
to
I
have
mean, that kind of throws up some flags for some straw purchases, doesn't it?
Yeah, that does too. Is you have to also know that there's some other things going on now too, especially if you come in with other people, things of that nature. But assuming everything's all on board, my thing is if you're coming in, I'd like that you look and you show proper gun safety first. Like when I hand you the firearm, even though I just cleared the firearm, clear the firearm. It just shows to me that you know what you're doing and keep your finger off the trigger. Follow all the base gun safety steps. That's what I prefer people do. I also prefer people just ask. Just if you have a question, ask. That's it.
Yeah.
Just
Especially
hey,
like, hey, can I dry fire it?
yeah, can I dry fire it? Don't just bolt it. Don't keep racking the bolt as fast as you can. Like, I'm gonna pick on some guys across the border, like Jersey guys in particular. They love to rack the bolts and stuff and just pull the triggers as fast as they can. I don't know what.
They're not used to it.
Yeah, and it's just like, listen, guys. I know freedom sounds great over here, but you also have to, just keep in mind you're in a gun store. It's not a toy store. So, just show proper gun safety, show stuff like that. And if you have questions, just ask. Because even if I don't know, half the time on used guns, as long as you're being civil and you're not being rude or anything like that, I'm happy to answer your questions, and I'm happy to go look it up if I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I actually don't like from across the gun counter, I guess, if you will, is if you hear people saying, I don't know, and them not willing to find out. Like, it's all right if you don't know something. It's completely acceptable. But
absolutely.
saying I don't know at times, or you're not sure. Now, it's one thing if it's a really obscure question. Like some people ask some questions that are so pointless. Like, where is this gun made? Like, what does it matter whether the gun was made in the USA or Austria, or whether if it was made here or here? Like, there's just, or how long has this company been in business? Who cares? Yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of these are,
what twist rate is this?
Yeah, like there's some things that it's like, does it really matter for you for what you're doing? You're just doing,
Plus, what are the chances of me knowing it?
Exactly. There's some questions that are just really out there, and you have to understand. Behind the counter, we see a lot of guns. A lot of guns. So to remember everything, you're not going to remember everything.
Oh, absolutely. That's why when people start talking about Glocks, I'm like, okay, how big is it and what's it shoot?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't keep up with the numbers.
Well, it's funny.
They all take apart the same. I don't have a reason to know them.
Well, it's funny. I guess until you sell them, you don't learn the numbers. But even some of the guys have trouble learning them. I'm like, guys, this. Like, I'm like, you should just, shoot them a couple times and you'll learn them. But no, the main thing for me is I just prefer people ask, and they don't do the full breakdown too. Like, it's, I don't like things flying around in the store. I'm more worried about something getting lost in the store than something getting damaged, if that makes sense. Like, it's, if you can visually inspect the gun and you can see it's just like, hey, it's clean, and you can see everything's functioning. Believe it or not, we actually
even ask for like a bore light or something.
Yeah, something like that, or just use your phone or something like that. We can take a look. But believe it or not, my shop, we actually, or I keep saying my shop, the shop I work at, we stand out a little bit, and we actually do clean the guns. We actually do test a lot of the guns, so we actually know the functionality of it too. So I mean, I've told you how many times I've been to the range testing various different things. We'll fire, a couple mags through just to A, get a feel for it, so we can, talk about said firearm, and B, do a function test. Do we function test every single one? No, like when I'm talking about at the range. Not. But no, we do like a basic function test in the store. I'm not talking like, that we do every single time. We'll check, the trigger, all that stuff, make sure everything functions
trigger
fine.
Engages, safety engages.
Yeah, but every single gun might not always get range time. So any store that says they're doing it, every single gun is, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like Gunsmith, for us. Do I test fire every gun that comes in the shop? Absolutely not. Why would I need to? I swapped out the grips. Trust me, they're on there.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you need to do a test fire for that? Or why do you need to, if you just cleaned, if you just cleaned up a stock, for instance, why do you need to test fire it? Like, that just seems kind of odd. But.
Well, like, I just did this one, what was it? It was that Fox Sterlingworth. I just did the stock repair. One of the main things with, especially double barrel stocks, is after you do a repair, okay, well, is it going to split under recoil? It's an older gun. I could have taken it out and shot it. It has a recoil pad on it. I just give it a couple good bumps on the floor, because I know if me literally bumping it on the floor pretty hard was enough for it to shock it to break that repair out, I know it wasn't a good repair.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a need to go and shoot it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There's sometimes it would be nice to, but you don't always have to.
Yeah. Plus, just time involved. Time, ammo. Ammo's not cheap.
Oh, that's the other thing too. And then you also have to get out to the range, and you have to hope there's no one there, or if you're in
You
a
know what?
public range.
That's a point we missed on our checklist for buying a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Can you buy ammo for it?
That's the other thing
just,
is too. Yeah,
I just ran into that.
yeah, is ammo available? Yeah, that's funny. You actually did just run into that with military surplus. That's something you really have to keep an eye out for. Is can you buy ammo? Like something like 6.5 Jap in particular is not necessarily readily available at your nearest gun store.
Oh, I wasn't even talking about that. I was talking about the rolling block that I picked up.
Oh, ooh,
yeah,
that too.
I'm never gonna find ammo for that.
Well, that's funny because our buddy just found Kropatschek ammo not too long ago. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you might find 10 rounds here, but that'll be the first time you'll find it at the show for.
Yeah, exactly.
For how long?
For all those listening, if you happen to stumble across 8x42 rimmed, let me know.
Send us an email.
It's probably only over in Sweden somewhere, but in case a few rounds made it here, I'll take them.
Yeah, if you guys find any, feel free to shoot him an email over at, go to the website precisionrifleworks.com, or you can shoot us a message over at acrosstheguncounter.com. I'm not even kidding about that. He's looking for that ammo.
Yeah. Not that I really care to shoot the gun. It's just going to be a...
you want to shoot it. Don't lie.
I mean, okay, I'll shoot any gun once.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that one, again, it served my purpose for what I need it for. It's going to be a refinishing project that I have a sample of my work. So, that one, really didn't care if it had ammo availability.
I see. That's kind of like the Makarov I picked up, too, was I just wanted to do, I wanted to do a whole project of rebluing and all that stuff, so...
Yeah.
Got a decent price, and it fit the bill. It fit all my checkpoints of it was beat to crap. It did this, but I was able to get a replacement sight for it. I looked up replacement springs if they were available, and I was able to do it for a reasonable price.
Yeah, you did your due diligence.
Yes.
Can never say that.
No, yeah.
So,
but yes,
all right, man. What do you say we wrap this up?
Yeah, man, that sounds good to me. I mean, I think we went over everything with the buying a gun. Just keep an eye out for it. Make sure. Key takeaways I would say is take a look at everything. Make sure if it's a new gun, just make sure everything's in the box with it. Make sure everything locks up right. Make sure all the grip is. Just do a once over. You don't need to be doing a full breakdown on everything. For used guns,
please don't.
Yeah, it's a waste of everyone's time on new guns. For used guns, I can see being a little more cautious. But just make sure if it's clean, just make sure once over dry fire, do like a dry fire or something, make sure everything functions, things of that nature. But that's my real thing is your gun buying checklist is really going to depend on what you're looking for and if you can afford it at that time.
Yep. Again, a gun looks a lot less pretty when the lights are out. So
yes, very true. Something
keep
to
that in mind.
But on that note, where else can they find you at, Tyler?
You guys can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Precision Rifle Works LLC and on my website, precisionrifleworks.com.
All right. And for myself, you can find me over right now. I'm just on Instagram at Instagram and YouTube. For Instagram at SightPicture762 and YouTube at SightPicture762 as well. The YouTube channel is not really gun content, but semi-gun content because it's Hunt Showdown, which I want to show.
Adjacent.
Yeah, I want you to play that game. I want you to see that game and see what you think because you like the old stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to try it.
Yeah, it's cool. And check out those videos. But the main thing is, follow us anywhere. You can find us at Across the Gun Counter on Instagram. Soon, hopefully, maybe we'll have YouTube up there as well. And check us out on the website at acrosstheguncounter.com, where you can check out not only all our podcasts, but our blog, and soon to be hopefully a gallery and some other cool stuff that we got planned for you guys. So, with that, guys, take care, stay safe, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
There you go. Take care, guys.